Hello and good morning, Louisiana. Today on iWin News, we are going to be asking the question of, can we trust the Louisiana legislators' audits? Are they really being run and done by people who are not connected in any way to the organization that they're auditing?
Spoiler alert, my hypothesis is no.
As you may know by now, I really enjoy going through public records because I get very frustrated with the good old boy network here and how it really does cause harm to people, and it, slows down progress. Like the reason Louisiana is sick and our pay is not high and we are just utterly struggling in so many other places is because of the fact that the good old boys are involved in all of it. We have the ability to hold people accountable by controlling our own version of the narrative. And oftentimes what you see is that the politicians, as I was reviewing campaign finance documents, I kept seeing how much our politicians pay the local media to control that narrative. But the thing here at iWin News, no one pays our bills except for us. And we move with the audacity of a good old boy. So we are unapologetically deep diving into Louisiana public records, and I want you guys to be able to do that too. Now, one of the pathways that we have is looking at the Louisiana legislature audits. Now, these audits are done across the state for various, government organizations, and they're required to. I believe they're required to do it every year. Some may not have to do it, and they may have to do it like every couple of years or whatever, but I'm pretty sure most have to do it every year. And the struggle is we have outlets where we can review documents and get information about how organizations work. And Louisiana honestly has some really accessible public records, and we want to absolutely fight to keep that, which is why that whole bullshit NDA situation, I'll get into that maybe another time. But now, as I was digging into some public information in the parish that I live in, which is called St. Tammany Parish, I was able to come across the sheriff's audit here in St. Tammany Parish. Now, the sheriff's office here in this parish has quite an interesting history. And as I've been deep diving into public records of the public officials here in St. Tammany Parish, let's just say I've been finding some interesting coincidences that connect with our sheriff's office. Now, I was reading the report or the audit from, I think it was for 2024 to 2025, and I was kind of shocked. And not like in a, oh my God, look at that shocked way, like, oh my God, it looks so normal. But the thing is, as someone who has hyper pattern recognition and I call it a videographic memory because I see things like a video, but I guess people call it a photographic memory. I'm able to review things and keep them in my head and then be able to connect them across different platforms, essentially. Now, what I found when I was going through that audit was that everything is like cool with the sheriff's office. Like they have a surplus of funds. And in fact, because of the growth that's happened in this parish, they've actually had I think an 11% growth in their revenue that they bring in through like taxes and stuff. Now, here's when the math doesn't math for me, because while the sheriff's office and the growth of the parish has been positively impacting it, the jail, however, has no money. Now, I don't understand why that is. I don't understand the mechanism behind that yet. But believe me, I'll get there. And if not, you all will help me. I am sure of it. But that just doesn't make any sense, in my opinion, to have growth happening and an increase in a budget on one front, and then literally operating in the red on the other side when the money is coming essentially from the same place. Now, this is where things got interesting, because as I was reading the audit, I noticed who was doing the audit. It was LeBlanc and Associates, CPAs. And I was like, I know I've seen that name before. So I went back to where I thought I had saw that name, and it was actually on Sheriff Marlon Guzman, who was the previous sheriff of New Orleans, on his campaign finance report. And the reason I find all of that interesting is because they were the ones who are preparing his campaign finance report. So you have the former sheriff of New Orleans, who apparently, according to the records, is going to run again, I guess. Or at least what it indicates is that he's exploring that option, maybe. I don't know. However, the previous stories that I have covered, which are affiliated with the Calvin Duncan case, you see this whole network because the Senator Jay Morris, who was the one who introduced this legislation to remove Calvin Duncan's seat or get rid of it and kind of consolidate the clerk of court, is connected to Marlon Guzman because what's his name? Y'all, the amount of names that are flooding through my brain right now. Jay Morris owns a law firm called Dean Morris, and Dean Morris has made donations to Sheriff Marlon Guzman's campaign. Now, why does that matter about LeBlanc and Associates? Well, I'm curious as to if we, the public, are actually getting a truly fair and unbiased independent audit of these organizations, because the math doesn't math. It just doesn't. And it doesn't make sense that the sheriff's office on one end can look so fantastic and that it's really benefiting from the growth of, the growth of the community here in St. Tammany Parish, compared to the other side where the jail is like they have absolutely no money. And then you find out that the audit was done by LeBlanc and Associates, who has connections, and I would say rather intimate connections, to Marlon Guzman, who is also connected and affiliated to the sheriff of St. Tammany because they both have made donations. And in fact, Marlon Guzman made donations to the St. Tammany sheriff's church, his personal church. And when you start to see this network of things, and like I said, I don't know what constitutes a crime or corruption anymore because fuck if I know, honestly. And I'm not accusing anybody of it, but I'm asking the question of the Louisiana legislature audits. Are they really fair and unbiased when you see that this entire political network is connected all over the place? And it also raises the question of where do we, as Louisianians and folks along the Gulf Coast, where do we go when we want accountability, when we want an audit done? Because as I've been digging through the public records, there are so many parts and pieces that just do not add up. And I'm no dum-dum, believe me. I mean, I may be blonde, but I'm a brilliant one. But that's the thing is, where do we go? Where do we go when we want to have a report, fraud, waste, abuse? Where do we actually go if this whole political network is able to make things disappear? And if they don't make things disappear, they're connected to the law enforcement. Law enforcement has a way of making people and things disappear. And then you have this other element of it where you have the news media who have significant stake in reporting the narrative and the interest and what's in the best interest of, the good old boys that pay them. And another part of this to stress here is that while in front of the cameras and in their political speeches and all of that stuff, they will be like, Republicans this, Democrats that, but behind closed doors, they're all eating lunch together. They're all networking and talking and moving things through, but so that they benefit them personally. And what's really frustrating is that for the public, we only see them through the lens of the camera that gets controlled by the people they pay, to run their political ads and pay a lot of money, like millions of dollars. Seriously, it's an insane amount of money. But what does that leave us, the people who bankroll this whole operation, And not only do we bankroll it, we also are here trying to vote for these people based on what they present to us. And what you learn is that it's all a front. It's all bullshit to some extent. Now, granted, there are some folks who are out there doing it in my way, I'm just going to say the right way, where they are not taking money from big PACs. They are, grassroots, running on grassroots contributions to campaigns. So they're not, shaking hands with this corporation and shaking hands with that oil and gas company. They're having literal people like me and you contributing their $20 each month or whatever it is to those campaigns, and then they are running off of that. And an example of that is Calvin Duncan's campaign. When I reviewed his campaign finance report, it was very clear to me that, of course, there's going to be individuals who were able to donate more money, but a lot of what he fundraised was grassroots people. And I didn't see any of the other names that I was seeing in all of these other places on his campaign finance report, which in my opinion goes to show that genuine and authentic people can win. And that's exactly what scares the living shit out of the good old boys who worked overtime to remove him from his position. And like I said in a couple other videos of what I've covered, is Calvin Duncan is collateral damage. They have a plan, they have a mission to take over New Orleans and to get full control of it. It's being assisted by the political heads in New Orleans, Democratic political heads, and they're being funded by, large Republican donors and PACs to make sure that Calvin Duncan could not take his seat. Because my theory is that they knew he was not corruptible. They knew he had integrity.
Whoa.
And look at what they did.
Whoa. Nothing can stop me, I'm all the way up.